Donald grew up in a very dysfunctional household. He had a father who was a sociopath and a mother who was unavailable for many reasons, and grew to be an adult who is incapable of negotiating the world, is incapable of looking outside of his own self-interests. And I believe that the story I tell has a lot of explanatory power and that people will benefit from reading it.
When did you come to the conclusion that your uncle Donald Trump was dangerous?
It happened fairly shortly after the inauguration, when I realized how many people were willing to line up to enable his worst impulses.
The White House, of course, is denying any of the truth of what you say in your book. In fact, they obviously didn't want it to come out in the first place. But there is a point to be made. And I mean, you sold 1 million copies already in day one of your book going on sale. It's hugely profitable, isn't it, to write about President Trump? It's an industry in itself. You are, in effect, cashing in, aren't you, on your knowledge of him as part of your family?
I wouldn't put it that way, in the sense that that wasn't my intention. I would have published this book whether it made money or not. I'm really gratified to see its reception. It reinforces the idea that there's a real hunger out there for the truth about my family. And I completely understand why people would be skeptical of my motives and my past history with the family. But honestly, if this had simply been revenge, or, as you said earlier, cashing in, I would have written this book 10 years ago.
Why do you think it's important for people here to hear what you have to say about him? Of course, we do have Brexit on the horizon, and we need America, as always, perhaps more than ever.
Whether people like it or not, we live in a global community. For Britain to make certain decisions going forward, they need to know that they can rely on the United States as an ally. And I don't believe that you guys can at the moment.
Do you see that there is a way to work with Donald Trump, the character that you portray him as, egotistical, very difficult, thin-skinned, and all of the problems that you say you see in him? Is it any way of compromise with him, or is it his way or no way, in your opinion?
If he believes that something will not benefit him personally, there will be no compromise.
And that's interesting. So if he loses the election in November, do you think we'd see a crumbled man?
That's a really good question. I think it depends on two things. It depends on, if he loses, how badly he loses, how wide the margin of the loss is. And it depends on the people surrounding him. His circle is getting smaller and smaller, but the people closest to him continue to prop him up and feed him misinformation, which again keeps him from having to face the reality of the situations on the ground. So I can only speculate. My hope is that the loss is big enough that even he has to concede in order to save face, that it's best that he just move on.